Okay, I know what a lot of you are thinking, and that will be, does the world really need another Virtual Prophet 5? Well, this one is unique. This one is different in that it models this precise model of Prophet 5. So on this, we have the vintage mode and the Rev 1 and 2 and the Rev 3 filters and envelopes. And possibly more importantly, it's the only one that's endorsed by Sequential themselves. So it's the only one that's actually called the Prophet 5 and the only one that's got a Sequential badge on it. And this tone I've been playing here, tone 111, is called It's a Prophet. And it really is the sound of the Prophet 5 to me. So if we can get that absolutely spot on, we're already in a good place. And when I first tried the software, I went through all that normal stuff just to double check everything. I checked the filters, the different Rev 1, Rev 2, I checked the oscillator shapes, the envelope shapes, and I'll show all this in a minute. But was really, really impressed by it, which made me think, or made me wonder, how CPU intensive is it? So I thought, like I normally do, I made a track using nothing but the synth I'm demoing. There's a few drum samples in there as well. But here we've got 10 separate tracks, all using the GForce Prophet 5. Just open this up. So the only thing I've put on there is an EQ. I've taken any other effects off. We've got effects in here. So I'm only using the effects that are on the synth to push it as hard as I can. And I'll take the main mix bus processors off, just so we can look at the CPU up here. Looking at that CPU meter while we're playing. Because when something sounds this good, you obviously think the CPU is taking a massive hit. But as you can see there, it really isn't. In fact, Ozone on the master uses about double what 10 of the VSTs use. So it's really quite streamlined. And that reminds me, actually, I did a Minimoog or a Minimoog VST review or comparison a few years ago. And the GeForce one, the Mini Monster, was by far the oldest there. So it's been designed for much, much older computers. And that stood up really well against all the other ones that I was demoing. And I suppose that's a testament to how good the GeForce emulations are. They really did set the bar very high, very early. And I suppose they've done stuff with Novation, who are owned by Focusrite, same people that own Sequential. They did the Novation base station. So they've had experience working with GeForce before, and they obviously like what they're doing. And I have to say, it is really, really nice. And before I do play this, I'll just show you quickly that it isn't an exact replica of the Prophet 5, because we do have, as we saw earlier, the effects. But we've also got these X modulation routines, and with these you can put an LFO and an envelope on absolutely anything. So there's the envelope. We've put that on the mixer. We'll put something else down here. I'm ruining my mix now, aren't I? I'll never get it back. So you've got an envelope on there, really complex envelope. Got the LFO, and you can put these on absolutely everything. So yeah, just straight in. It's not just a Prophet 5, it's a Prophet 5 on steroids. It's got NPE. We can modulate anything via CC. We've got 2 layers, and the polyphony goes to 10. Just like this hardware, I know it says 5 there, but I have put the extra 5 voice board in here. Anyway, I can only apologize. Take a listen to this. Yeah, too far. I do feel a little bit dirty after that. Anyway, let's start taking a look at all the little bits and bobs we've got in here. And I think we'll start off this time with the filters. Okay, then get ready to get your geek on. There's no other way to do this really to show you how close they are without getting the graphs up. Straight away you can see they're behaving in the same way, can't you? You go a bit lower. Both rolling off at the top end exactly the same way. Go even lower. Slight differences in tuning on the actual oscillators there. Well, that's about it. If we start to add resonance, so we get the drop. And that resonant peaks at about 8 kilohertz. Try that with this one. Exactly the same. Let's just get it so they're evenly matched. The peak and the fundamental. Do that over here. Let's sweep that then. And you can hear there that that's tuning to the semitones just like the original does. Pretty similar then, aren't they? Let's try something else. Let's put it onto the Rev 1 and 2. There's not a massive difference between them. One's the SSI, that's the original Rev 1 and 2 is an SSI filter, and it's a SEM in the Rev 3. But in normal circumstances, I know there's a fair amount of difference there. Normally when you're playing a tone, you can't hear that much difference, but isolated like this, and there's a minor difference. The tuning on my hardware is slightly out. It's like a semitone out, isn't it? If we take the oscillators off, yeah, it's a semitone out on that. Res on the software. It's tuned correctly, so I wonder if this needs some sort of calibration. Let's see if we can see any more differences. The Rev 3 doesn't have these extra harmonics. So there is a big difference there, isn't there? Let's try that here. So if we're getting the tuning instability, it is doing the same thing. You can see those 3 peaks moving. And again down here. 3 peaks down to 1 main one. Oh, and that's a nice rumble. As is that. So the only difference I can really find is that the hardware has got a tuning issue. To all other intents and purposes, they're pretty much bang on, aren't they? Let's play like a chord or something with it. 2 sawtooths on each, slightly detuned. Let's try dropping the filter. Add some resonance. Try that here. And then try that on the Rev 1 and 2. Don't think you'll hear much of a difference here. Try that here. Super close those. If you think there's a difference there, it's the difference that you'd get in two instruments. One thing I'm not showing it is this actually. So back to a single oscillator, increase the resonance so you can see where the cutoff is, and although it's about 8 kilohertz there, you just take it up with the envelope and bring it back down again. And this does exactly the same. Add the resonance, we get it to about 8K, and then increase the envelope, and off it goes to who knows where. Looking at the envelope amount then, so coming from over 20 down to whatever that is, about 550. Let's drop that a bit lower. In fact, let's play it down there. Dropping that to 200. Try that here. Pretty close, aren't they? Let's make that a bit faster, a bit snappier. Yeah, very similar. Let's knock that resonance down a bit, make it a bit more of a useful tone. In fact, let's try it on Rev 3 because the envelopes are different on Rev 3. So this one sounds a bit brighter on Rev 3, does it? Is that just my imagination? Drive myself a little bit mad now, trying to find differences, but you know, I think they're pretty close, aren't they? Let's take a quick look at the oscillators now, and we'll start off with the sawtooth. Slightly different shapes on them. Sounds the same though. Let's go to the square. Almost identical. There's little intermediate frequencies I always look for, because they determine whether it's definitely a perfect square or not. Knock them down a little bit more on the hardware. Let's get this to 0 on the software. Just double click it. So it can get slightly more fluty off the hardware. But you know, that's very minor. And there must be a reason their hardware that they've modeled theirs on may be slightly different to this, because I can't see that being a really difficult thing to do. So it really is the differences between two hardware synths. Let's change the width. Almost through 0. Again, almost through 0. Very similar, not identical. So the hardware is a little bit wider. Again, I suspect you get the same sort of differences on two synths. Let's try the triangle. We're getting a couple more little harmonics in the triangle, but I don't really think you can hear them. Slight differences in tuning again. I keep on having to tune this. But I'll do it again. But if you look at that oscilloscope, you'll see that the software's been programmed not to give you perfect tuning. Because, of course, you don't get perfect tuning on the synths. But if I'm sitting here all day, so I've been doing this for hours, as the temperature changes every now and then, you do have to hit tune on this. Let's just see what the tuning's like now. So they're all 13 cents or 14 cents over. 0 cents. And the software's between +2 and +5. So again, let's add a little bit of release to that, make some nice smooth tones. Overall, then, really minor differences, and I'd say they're the same as you'd get between two hardware synths. And if you don't believe me, check out my Korg Poly 6 comparison, two Poly 6s. They sound like they've got the same character, but there are minor differences. Exactly what we're hearing here, very minor differences. But let's try some modulation. Let's push it a little bit further. I'll set them up with a sawtooth and a square and a fifth between them. So let's take oscillator B out of the mix. Okay, and now let's modulate A with B. So turn oscillator B modulation up on the frequency of A. Do the same with this. Identical so far. Let's turn this up as far as it'll go. And this one is at 95%. And that's the same. So let's, I don't know, let's change the width of that pulse. Yeah, you're not going to get two synths that aren't the same synth being that close when you're using FM. Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it? Just try two sawtooths. Yeah, so they're about as identical as you're going to get. Let's try some PWM. The LFO is modulating the pulse width of A. They're the same, and actually not all synths do it in the same way. This is modulating about the center. They don't all do it that way. Yeah, cool. Let's speed that up. So the LFOs are the same speed. And while we're looking at the LFO, let's modulate the frequency of A with a square. So, same here. So the maximum amount of LFO is the same on both of them, as well as the rate. Turn this up full. That's the same again, isn't it? We've not looked at audio rate modulation of the filter yet, using the polymod section, so we've set this up. And this is a really simple patch. I'll just run you through it quickly. We're modulating a sawtooth on oscillator A with a square from oscillator B. Got the resonance pretty high and the cutoff down. So we're hearing the resonance in there so that we can hear the filter. Now, when I add frequency modulation to the filter and to A, do it over here. That character's identical, isn't it? Let's turn it up a bit higher. Yeah, maybe it could match up the filter settings a little bit better, but the overall character of that is undoubtedly a Prophet 5. And again, as I always say with FM, it's really difficult to get even two of the same synths matched identically because there's so much happening in there. But let's take a look at the low frequency mode, actually. We've not seen that yet. So let's take that off, put on low frequency mode, put them both on, or and again on the software, low frequency mode, keyboard off. So the software is slower. So we can just speed that up. Yeah, I could do with spending a bit more time matching the cutoff and the resonance on them to get them absolutely perfect. But really, I'm just showing that the low frequency mode works. And disengaging keyboard tracking for oscillator B keeps it at the same frequency. So it's doing what you'd expect. Oh, it's beautiful, that, isn't it? The two of them together. Okay, this is quite exciting because I've found a little difference. I've got the frequency of A being modulated by the filter envelope on both of them. So they're the same, and let's just listen to oscillator B on its own. So you can hear what I'm doing here again. So everything's set up the same. And I'll turn oscillator B off. And oscillator A up again. And when I hit this now, when I add the sync, that high pitch is coming from the same place. But on the software, it seems to start an octave lower. When I put in sync, so when you're matching like this, technically they're not identical, but once you start playing with them, they sound very similar anyway. So there are some minor differences there, but nothing that you'd ever pull out and think sounds completely different. Should we take a look at Unison then? Yeah, we're getting those harmonics, aren't we, popping through on the different voices with the different envelope times. Sounds really nice. I've got slightly different envelope times in there, but you can hear they are super, super similar. But I do like the way that you can hear the harmonics on the different voices, and that brings me to the vintage mode, because the vintage mode on this isn't like a standard slop. You can actually hear the distinct voices. One of them sounds like it's about to die. So let's have a little play with it. So we leave it on the same tone maybe and put vintage on 1. Beautiful, isn't it? Now I'll be stunned if that does exactly the same thing on this. And it is, it's doing exactly the same. I suppose they could have ported over the vintage algorithm, but for it to be doing that with the filters. That one that rises, it's doing exactly the same on the software. Let's try a bit lower. Yeah, that's identical, isn't it? And I think that means I've covered everything. I've looked at the LFOs, the polymods, the oscillators, the filter, the envelopes, unison mode, sync mode, the vintage knob, low frequency. So I think that's all there is to compare. I could look at the effects, maybe just show you what we've got on the effects. We open the effects on the top right, and we've got 4 effects. We've got a reverb, a delay, and the first 2 can be a selection of chorus, phaser, distortion, filter, tremolo, or compressor. You can't have 2 of the same, so we can't have another chorus there. Well, let's take a listen. Let's add the chorus to the mix. Different modes. So really simple effects and basic, but really nice sounding. Let's go to the distortion. Now this can get pretty nasty, so got different modes on this as well. Got like a saturation and a wave folder. So click and push. As I say, nasty that, innit? So an effective little distortion there. You know, you're not getting millions of combinations there. A multi-mode filter. So you can stick a high pass or whatever you want on top of this. Resonance and keyboard follow. We can put an LFO on that using the X mod, or an envelope. So much more than just a filter thrown on the top. Tremolo. And again, modulate everything with the X mod. And then a compressor. I'll take a bit more playing to show you what that does. And the phaser. So let's turn the phaser up. Let's turn this one off. Different holes on the phaser. So again, a really nice little effect. And then delay, which we can obviously sync in time. Or not. Be nice if this had a low pass. I think it's only a high pass. I can't seem to figure out if it's got a low pass on that feedback. Oh my God, that's lovely. That's really nice. Oh yeah, nice bit of modulation on there as well. Beautiful. And that's without the reverb. Let's turn that off and put some reverb on. We've got different reverb presets here. So let's just put it on the massive one. Let's just go big. So all your spacey effects are catered for. That's amazing. Easily impressed by a big reverb, aren't we all? Yeah, so there's your effects, again, taking it way beyond what your Prophet 5 can do. And with the Xmod section over here, everything's got its own LFO and everything's got its own envelope. So Prophet 5 on steroids is probably underselling it a little bit. So there you have it then, the Prophet 5 from GForce. It's the only software that can call itself the Prophet 5. It's endorsed by Sequential. It's super, super close to my hardware. A couple of minor differences there, but if I didn't have the hardware in front of me and I wasn't testing it against mine, I don't think I'd have noticed any differences whatsoever. But I have been massively clinical with this because there are a fair few Prophet 5 softwares out there. So I really wanted to dig in and see what it could do. So I've spent, as I say, I've spent hours and hours looking at this, trying to find differences, and I did find a couple of minor ones, but overall it's, you know, it's the same sin. So I hope you found that useful. If you did, please subscribe, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. I've got patch samples, tutorials, and other nice bits and bobs to download. Also do take a look at my starskycard.com website. Again, patch samples, free stuff, cheap bits and bobs as well. But most of all, thanks for staying to the very end, and thanks for putting up with that really horrific 80s tune that I programmed on it at the start. Anyway, I will see you next time.